Smoking can cause lung cancer. Eating dark chocolate can lead to a better health. And laughing every day can improve your mood. It seems like every day there's always a result of a new study that comes out with a very, very extreme title in it saying that doing one thing can cause something else to happen, whether that results in a good thing or a bad thing. And whenever you see those titles, you just want to believe it because if it helps you or benefits you, then you want it to be true. However, when you look more into the research and see how they came up with the results, you tend to get very skeptical of how they came up with that conclusion or why that conclusion came upon. So why are all these studies have these causation statements where the results or the process doesn't really reflect that? Well, most of these studies occurred through a correlational study where they compare two variables and see how they're related. And whether they find a relationship that is either positive or negative, there's always a need to make it a causation claim, especially in the title, because the mindset is if there's a relationship between them, there must be a causation statement. However, there is a distinct difference between a correlational statement and a causation statement. But although there's a distinction, people tend to mix them up or think they're the same thing. So what is the difference between a correlational statement and causation statement? And why can't we say a correlational statement implies causation? And how can we avoid running into this issue? So what exactly is a correlation? A correlation consists of two or more things sharing a mutual relation, meaning we're just identifying if there's a relationship or not. A correlation can be positive, meaning as one variable increases, the other variable increases. A correlation can also be negative, where as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. As you can see, all the points are not on the line, they're all scrambled up, but they're still maintaining the direction of the line. Now let's look at causation. Causation is a relationship between cause and effect, meaning one thing is causing something else to happen. So why can't we say correlation means causation? They sound pretty alike. Looking at both definitions, correlation is just stating there is a relationship, while causation is stating there is a specific relationship. So we can't assume correlation means causation because although correlation states there is a relationship, we can't necessarily prove that the relationship is causing something to happen. So since correlation and causation are in fact very different, why do we always assume correlation means causation? Let's look at these correlations again. As you can see, as something is happening to one variable, let's say the x variable, something happens to the y variable. Meaning, if there's something happening in x and something happening to y, you may assume that x is causing y to happen. Let's look at this graph for an example. As you can see, they're finding the correlation between your height and the weight. As you can see, there is a positive correlation, meaning as you get taller, the heavier you are. But does that really mean height causes gain weight? Realistically, no. In fact, we can't really assume that height causes gain weight. So one reason why we can't assume correlation means causation is because you have to look at the facts and look at the variables and sort of see what kind of relationship they have and whether there is a direct relationship between those two. Also, as you're looking at both of the variables and the correlation relationship, think about what else could be involved because two variables, although they're related, there could be a third variable or even a fourth variable that could help the relationship. So let's look back at this example. Although there is a correlation between height and weight, there could be another variable that could help that relationship. For instance, although you may be very short stature, you can still be overweight, either by overeating or having a very unhealthy diet, or you can be very tall and be very low in weight because you're exercising, or maybe you're an athlete and you're trying to lose weight. There could be very different variables that could help that relationship. So you really need to sort of look at what else could be involved that could help that relationship form. So how can we turn a correlation into a causation? We don't, because it's very, very difficult to turn a correlation statement into a causation statement. The reason is, although we are only focusing on the correlation between two variables, there could be other variables that we're not really studying or focusing on. So we really need to sort of figure out how we can get rid of or isolate or even control those third variables. A possible solution is to do more studies and figure out whether those third variables are correlated or not. If they are not correlated, then there is no contribution to the two primary variables. Thus, you can eliminate those variables and then possibly, but not likely, make a causation statement. So for now, we just have to say that correlation does not mean causation, because we'll have to do additional studies and also look at multiple variables in order to create a causation claim. A common error that you'll see most likely are actually in the research titles, because although the study is a correlational study, the title will reflect a causation statement. Although those titles are very eye-catching, it in fact does not reflect the results from the study. You'll likely see these titles from either the news, newspapers, magazines, or even the blogs, because they want to catch your attention and draw you into the research and make these claims that seem very unbelievable. In fact, they are, because once you start reading the article, you'll tend to sort of see there's a very disconnect between the title and also the claims they're making in the research. Take a look at these titles here. As you read them, you can really detect there's a very direct relationship between those two variables. And these words like cause, benefit, increase, they do reflect a very specific relationship, thus claiming or showing that it's a very causal claim. Now, take a look at these titles. As you read them, you can detect that they are claiming there's a relationship. However, using the verbs like connect, link, tie, they're only stating that there is a relationship, not necessarily that there is a specific relationship. So, as you're creating a title for your correlation research, be sure that you be careful with the kind of words that you use, because if your title is reflecting a causation or direct claim, and then as they start reading the article, they seem to see that there's a disconnection between the title and the article, they'll tend not to believe your research and consider your research biased and very unprofessional. So, watch your words. So, what did we just learn? Well, correlation does not mean causation, because correlation reflects a relationship, while causation is a specific relationship. And as you're reading or as you're conducting your research, look for third variables and figure out whether there's another variable that could help those two variables' correlation. And finally, making sure that your title reflects your research and making sure that everything is consistent with what you're saying.